Hi, this is the Drupal Core Cross Initiatives meeting for February 1st, 2018. And the last time we met was, I believe, the 11th of January. And we picked this time for meeting again because we thought that the alpha behind us, we would be able to assess where we are and probably talk about 8.6. And then we'll see how that worked out. I also shared the meeting notes from the previous meeting with today's date. So what we usually do is we go through the meeting notes and talk about whether whatever was there was proceeded with, whether we could figure out help for people, whether that worked out, etc. So I don't think we have anyone from API First here. So last time we discussed that the term parent issue is important and our TVC4 I'm not finding it right now. I believe that got committed. The binary file issue is still open as far as I know, and it recently got some good feedback, so it's getting close to landing. Birdier got some good feedback there, so that's great. And I have no doubt that there's more RTPC API first issues. But there's, there's slow but steady progress on API first. And without actual participants, I wouldn't say, I don't know what their blockers are at the moment. So.
Oh, I could say something about that.
Yeah, please.
So there's a file upload issue that is very close. I guess it's semi-RTBC. I actually haven't checked to see if it's official yet, which would allow file uploads via REST, which is obviously would be great. And then Wim was saying their 8.5 priorities issue for API First, which I'll try to get the link in here. Is most of the big stuff is done. So
yeah, that's
in a good space.
Sorry.
So it seems like it's in a good space.
Yeah, the rest top priorities one is 2905563.
That's all I had.
If you happen to know any way that API First needs help, then please relay that information. So
yeah, I would say that 8.5 issue is sort of the roadmap for if people want to help out. The one that you just talked about, yeah.
I made note of that. Do we have anyone from JS? I don't think so. So Matt pinged me that he's quite sick and he will not be able to make it. And Sally is probably busy with something else.
I could do a small, there is one big issue that hopefully will get done, but I don't think will get done for 8.5. There's to add a new JavaScript messages API. And it's been going back and forth with RTPC, so hopefully it will be back there soon. But I don't think they can add it to 8.5 because it's a new API and it's too late.
Yeah, it's quite late.
Yeah. So that's all I know about that. But it'd be huge to get that done.
Yeah, I did talk to Angie about helping the JavaScript team set goals that Matt requested earlier, and I don't know if Angie managed to attend the meeting, but she did promise that, so I will follow up. We have a committee meeting later today, so I will follow up with her and see if that happened. And Okay. Layouts. So Tim also Plunkett is also not here. He also pinged me that he's busy with working on layout stuff. So there's a bunch of things that landed in 8.6 recently, and I don't know if there's hopes for backporting some of those to 8.5, but there's definitely a lot of activity there. So one stuff that landed in 8.6 recently is layouts for entity displays. That's very nice. So that got very good reception so far that I've heard. So there's definitely stuff being worked on for an entity this enable layouts then that takes over the entity display configuration. Is pretty cool. And they're busy implementing this stuff. Okay. As for media, again, I haven't been able to get people here from media, but I can report on them as well. So there's been lots of work on bulk uploads for media, which got some mixed feedback on the UX meeting this week because it kind of works. It uses a semi-progress bar UI with a lot of form elements and all kinds of form fields, and yeah, so it works, but it's far from the ideal goal, and we've discussed a lot in the UX meeting in terms of whether it makes sense to commit this interim step with the danger that it may become the final solution if we don't have time / resources / enthusiasm anymore for implementing something very fancy. Because the current solution is, yeah, it's not very user-friendly at all. And then some other progress is being made on connecting the media creation and listing UIs with media referencing functionality, entity reference, autocompletes in core, which is like a very far shot in terms of at least having some user affordances to help people create and reuse media while we are building the media library. So that's in some ways in similar shoes as the bulk upload, but it's much simpler and seems to have more chance to land. And if that lands, that may help show the media module in the UI, but that's not yet finalized. So there's still a lot of plumbing going on there as well. So as I've said, even though we chose this time because it seemed like we'll be way later than alpha, everything will be settled. It's not true at all. There's also a bunch of progress on better icons for media because there's very different and visually confusing icons. So they're being worked on as well. There's notes as well, so that people reading up will see this. So a bunch of work on multi-upload. Challenge obviously is and was not shown the for 8.5. Okay, migrate. A lot of great stuff happening there.
I already went through and sort of put some notes in there.
Yeah, very cool.
So we did in fact land Migrate API as stable during the sprint. Jess committed that for us with quite a bit of excitement on our part. Migrate Drupal UI is one of the other 3 modules. It had its last issue committed earlier this week, but since it depends on another unstable module, it cannot be technically marked stable. We also got lots of doc changes, API doc changes. I would say 15 or 20 things got committed during that sprint. And so if you want to go out and migrate into Drupal and you end up having to do something custom, the docs are way better. And then we also got a write-up of the sprint that Acro posted earlier this week. We've got an issue in RTBC for copying some things over from Contrib. We were also affected by the REST taxonomy term issue that API First was facing. We had some discussions and arrived at we'd do a sort of a kludgy workaround in 8.5 and just have to wait till 8.6. So that unblocks some things on the issue that's RTBC here. That'll land, and then there's a couple follow-ups for it to backport some of that to 8.5. And then beyond that, we still have some I18N complex problems. There's five issues blocking us from going stable, including this one. 4 I18N and then one that's listed here in the doc.
Added an item in notes for the same terms issued the API First faced. So we're currently to be done for 8.5. So is that something that you collaborate with API First on, or is that different solutions?
It'll be a special snowflake.
Okay.
We'll just be checking. Essentially, we'll be checking if the data that we're returning is a term, and if so, go out and retrieve the parent and format it in the way that it would expect to be in 8.6. So it's probably a half dozen lines of code, but it's like right there in the code that's supposed to be generic for all entity types, and it's really ugly and will make me feel dirty. But it works because it'll only be there for 8.5.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
We don't think we'll make 8.5.0 with solving all these complex problems. We are still hoping for a point release 8.5.1, 8.5.2 to get things done. The other thing, and all of us can start doing this, I wrote a blog post earlier this week saying it's ready because it is. Migrate is ready. We can't officially mark it stable because of the I18N stuff, because it's a system and we have to have the whole system ready. Yeah. But if you're not doing anything with I18N, which is 80% of the install base, or if you're coming from a non-Drupal source, CSVs, you're coming from Plume or WordPress or something, then by all means go out there and start upgrading or importing your data into Drupal 8. I think we need to start writing multiple blog posts about this. I've written one. Other people need to do that and start beating that drum.
Okay. Okay. So are you looking for like use case or case studies maybe that we can?
Well, mine was just 3 paragraphs that said, if you're not doing I18N, go ahead and upgrade now. I could use, and I'm a small shop. and we focus on migrations. But if someone like, say, Acquia wanted to have one of their authors write something, or have me co-write something with them, and say, go out and do it, and they tweeted it, and they did a big PR campaign around upgrading their 6 and 7 sites, because it's ready, because we're not doing, if you're not doing I18N, then go forth and do. That would be, it's a simple message, but I think it's something that public relations, sales folks do a very good job of communicating, as long as they've been told that they can do it. That's all I can say of talking points.
Yeah, I will see. I will look around and talk to a few people who I think are doing migration stuff, and see if we can get something. Not just at Acquia, but like Hook 42 and others who are working on stuff.
And I think up in Canada, they've got, there's another organization up there. What's their name? It's not going to come to me. Anyways, yeah, folks are doing migrations.
Evolving Web?
Evolving Web does them. Over in Australia, they've got a Previous Next is doing them.
Yeah, I think case studies would be nice, because like saying that hey, go start use it is very abstract. And if you can show like, okay, here's how we migrated this site with this much content, etc., to this site, is much more tangible. Like you can see that, okay, it's not they'll just say that, oh, by the way, it looks like from a distance that it works, but I actually use this to do this and this. I know it takes more to write.
I can have someone write something about that. We just did a 4-language site for a group out of Switzerland. Because the blockers for I18N are blockers around automation. They're not around the fact that you just can't do it. It's just you can't press a button to do it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'll see if I can write a case study on that too.
Yeah. Also, let me know if you have it. I will try to get it into like things like weekly drop or whatever to get the word out.
Yep.
Also, if your blog is on Drupal Planet, if not yet, then we can figure out.
They are on Drupal Planet.
Always useful.
The other. So why am I talking about this so much? I'm kind of repeating what Angie's told me, but Drupal 8's adoption has really slowed down, and one of the reasons why people think that it is because a lot of people jumped over because they were the early adopters from 6 or 7, but then now we've got the late adopters that are waiting for things to stabilize, and they're not adopting Drupal 8 at the rate that we would have hoped or expected. It's Views is in core, so why aren't they upgrading? Well, this is sort of their excuse. Is that really what the excuse? I mean, does it hold water? No, but that's what they're saying. So this is to all of our benefit in the community. We need to get migrate stable, because if not, 8 might start to be less adopted.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Preaching to the choir.
Yeah, indeed. Cool. So I will reach out to some people. You will look into writing a case study, and I will find some people who may be able to do so as well, and see what we can get. Okay. Yeah. Out of the box.
Hi there. So about us, we got committed to Drupal 8.6. So that's a really a good improvement, because now it is there. People can download it, test it, and we can start getting feedback from people. And we are actually getting a lot of feedback that we didn't expect it. And we had to thought about, again, about some stuff, and it's really good. And also another good point was that we already have the beta blockers defined, and we are working on them. And about things we need to do now, especially in these kind of meetings, is we need to define what we need to demo there. We were thinking on layouts and media, and maybe other initiatives can be shown there. And we need both to define which of them. We need to decide which things do we want to showcase, because, for example, knowing that you don't want to have a bulk upload for media, that's good to know. And actually, it would be great to know if we should create, if for other initiatives, it's good enough to create metas and just point people there to give their opinion. And about the challenges, we have the beta blockers. Most of them are just wording, or just they need some kind of definition, but there are some of them that still need some work. And I don't know, Gareth, maybe you can jump in here.
Yeah, so the biggest kind of beta blocker we've got is around the install page, and making it so that you only get the a kind of warning to say when you select the demo profile that, you know, this is a demo, you shouldn't use it to build your site for real, if you like. That's the biggest beta blocker we've got, but we've been doing some good work on that. I think Ted's been jumping in as well, which has been great. I think Laraland said we just need a test for what we've got left, but that's kind of the biggest issue. And have I linked to it yet? I can put a link to the issue, but that's, once we've got that resolved, that kind of unblock some of the other ones, or yeah, we'll hopefully bring things together and clear the beta blockers list down. So I've just put in the document under challenges 2A. But the rest of them, we should be, like I said, a couple might not be relevant once we've done this. Some of them we've got RTBC, so they're ready. So the rest of the beta blockers look pretty good, I think.
Yeah, most of them are fixed or RTBC.
So the plan is, if this get in, then Umami may be backported as is, or what's the plan?
So that's kind of up to you guys, I guess. WebChick was pushing quite hard. She wanted it in 8.5.
Mm-hmm.
The point was getting 8.6 and see what feedback comes back.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't had. We've had a lot of positive feedback. A few people helping out, picking up on a few things. We've not really had anyone say anything that that has kind of put it on ice or raised an issue that has to be fixed before maybe it could be used in a wider sense. So yeah, I think we're pretty happy with what we've got in the demo, and that the remaining issues are all minor. Maybe CSS, it's about accessibility follow-ups and things like that. Nothing that was potentially blocking it from going into 8.5 as a beta.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if people want to, 8.5 is yeah, a possibility.
Okay.
Excuse me.
We're in. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's the deadline for backporting. I don't know.
Yep.
Need to check. But we'll definitely talk about this in the, well, not definitely, but maybe we'll talk about this in the committer call later today.
Yep. So one thing I put in the challenges is a link to about potentially bringing migrate source CSV to core. Since we've got people talking about migrate, well, that sounds like that chuckle is a kind of, yeah, that's not happening.
That would be 8.6, I guess.
You guys are wanting to bring the CSV into core?
So we originally,
Because I'm the maintainer for it.
okay, so originally Contenta had a lot of migrate work that they were doing based on what we've done for the demo, and I kind of were in core because he's used them himself and can see them being quite beneficial to other people. Because we didn't have this, we weren't able to use migrate to actually bring in the content. We've kind of had to do some hard-coded workarounds for now. But if this is something, that's a possibility or worth pursuing, then looking towards 8.6.
Open the issue.
So I've got the issue for bringing it to core, but no one commented. So
Link it to me and I'll comment.
Yeah. Have you got the meeting document open?
I do.
Under the out of the box challenge number 3.
This was actually talked about at Baltimore a year ago, I believe.
Right.
But I never heard anything after that.
So yeah, I'm more than happy to help out with this one and test, work on it. Anything we need to do. But if it wasn't something that was going to happen, if there was a reason it wasn't in core, or we haven't got one yet, or there was another way of doing it.
I think the reason is because no one actually tried to get it there.
Fair enough. Well, I'm happy to try and help out because, yeah, that means we can start making use of migrate in Umami as well. And the plan is to kind of grow the demo to include more and more of these initiatives, features, modules, things like that. But yeah, if it can go ahead, then happy to.
The module itself has pretty high test coverage in Contrib. I think we could probably make it better.
Yep.
But it's also pretty stable in that I don't get hardly any feedback or issues open on it. Everyone just seems to figure it works. The only area around or questions around it are that right now it required, well, we can talk about it in the issue. Okay.
Yep, no problem. But yeah, that was just one thing I thought, seeing as people from Migrate were on the call, I'd throw in there. But yeah, that's probably enough talking from me, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely, it looks like media's probably not going to be ready for 8.5, and there's still a few things blocking it for 8.6. Is that right?
So if media is going to be shown in 8.5, that's going to be very late, decided very late.
Yep.
And it's not going to be a very optimal experience.
So we'll plan to keep that out of the demo for now until we've got a bit more in, because it sounds like there's quite a bit of work to do. But if layout gets there, then yeah, we definitely want to speak to layout about how we can bring that into the demo.
Yeah, I guess it will be more for 8.6 probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's challenging because there's a lot of stuff trying to be ready by the deadline, and then you want to use the stuff that's trying to be ready by the deadline, and you don't have another deadline. So
yeah, so we've left it out for now. So yeah, if layouts is going for 8.6, then as soon as it's stable, we can start planning for an 8.6 introduction of layouts in the demo.
Yeah.
The idea, for example, for layouts is just having if, for example, you for example, for layouts, enable layouts by default. And if anyone just disable it, the experience you're going to have is just having the fields one under another, for example. So we are planning to implement features with a plan if the module is not enabled, for example. So I'm not sure how we could handle it with media. We still need to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's a plan. And that's all.
So what I will do is I will try to verify layouts and media status and get back to you, okay?
We are going probably to create a meta for on the next call we have for each of the initiatives we want to include. And maybe we just send you the link and we can send people there, maybe, or I don't know, what's the best way?
That's not a bad way. But I mean, we need to figure out both their status, and whether you still have time to move forward based on their status, right? Because there's there need to be deadlines, because otherwise you're not gonna get released on time.
Yeah, our plan was until something is marked as stable, we're not going to start using it, and we'll have, only be using what we can use and what is stable and what is good. Otherwise, like I said, the demo will never make it out because we'll be waiting for the next thing. That's waiting on the next thing. So, we're fine without layouts. We'd just love to get it involved. That's all. Of course, anything the demo can do to help.
Yeah, I think a possibility, like Lucas said, that migrate could get better in point releases because it's not yet stable and it's just additional features. So if it's possible to change with keeping backwards compatibility or whatever, well, I don't know why we would need to do that for the profile anyway. But I need to look into the whatever rules we have for what we are allowed to change in any further point release, in case we could be ready with layouts in the demo later than when it is ready in standard profile or whatever.
Yeah.
Or in general in a module.
Okay.
So could be a possibility, but I don't know. Need to check. I haven't yet considered this problem, and it's very good to know this problem. So again, I will raise that on the committee call later today.
Okay.
Good stuff. So we have PHP unit in here, but we've never had a meeting where we successfully had someone representing PHP unit, although we have invited people from PHP unit. So I will once again see if we can get them here. But we do have tab for our settings tray.
Oh, yeah. So settings tray is stable, which is awesome. So actually, yeah, I was going to actually file an issue at some point to see if out of the box initiative wanted to just turn it on, which would just be including in the profile, I think. And we have issues, but all the stable blockers are gone. There's one UI improvement I think would be great to get in. It sort of emphasizes the selected areas better by fading everything else out, but that would just be an improvement. So yeah, I could always use help on the module issue queue, but nothing is really super critical right now. It's stable for when 8.5 comes out. It won't be part of the standard profile. I guess if that could happen at some point, sometime in another minor release, that would be great. But for right now, just yeah, nothing major on the roadmap besides just the major thing I think on the roadmap for maybe 8.6 would be trying to figure out how we can make it work with configuration overrides. So right now, because say translations, you can't really tell, there's not a good way to tell if a block is overridden, say from translations or from settings.php or somewhere else. We're disabling the quick edit form for any block that is overridden. So there's other work in generally for configurations to figure out where they're overridden, or to maybe keep a list with the configuration entities of all their overrides. And so if that general problem is solved, then we may be able to have override like translations in the settings tray. But right now, you just have the, if the quick edit link isn't there, there's still the configure block link, which takes you back to the edit screen, which potentially would have all the overrides. And there's also the quick edit translate block link, which takes you to the translation tab. So that is a big one, I guess, that we don't really have a good solution for yet. I think that's it.
This multilingual thing causing problems for migrate and settings.
I was actually thinking about making a contrib module that solves just the translation problem, because that's easier than solving, because I have a patch that does just that, but it's harder to solve the general configuration problem. So it'd be a caveat to where you kind of knew your site only had translation overrides and not other overrides. Mm-hmm. So not necessarily something that would be work for core.
Definitely, that could also be a way to test out some approaches or whatever, like see if the people have problems with only having that solution.
Yeah, and also maybe we could quickly iterate over a UI for that, because the UI potentially could be very, very confusing to list translations and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's it.
You mentioned about possibly integrating this with the demo. Someone has already made an issue for that, and I've put that in the document if you want to follow that issue.
Great, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, layouts also are using the off-canvas tray, so it's a similar experience for editing things.
Yep.
So it may make sense to move over there either way.
Great.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, there are some CSS problems I see from the issue. It's 2940585 for the sake of the recording. Okay, great. Congrats on being stable. And workflows also have problems with multilingual, I think.
What's the problem?
So there's at least I know that Pletch is working on a bunch of stuff with content workflows with multilingual revisions and stuff.
Yeah, right.
It's a big thing going on as well.
I say we all need to learn Latin and stick to one language in the whole entire world.
That could be good, yeah.
Still all the issue.
I'll comment to that.
Okay, so Andre, what's up with workflows?
Hey, so we also had a big win recently. Content moderation was marked as stable for 8.5. And the workspaces patch has progressed a lot in the last 2 weeks. We don't have any more blockers. And yeah, I guess it kind of needs more reviews again. From our perspective, it's in a very good alpha shape for alpha. The only known beta blocker is the full UI, and that we are blocked on that on a off-canvas issue, which would allow us to put the canvas to the top of the page. So that would need some help because we don't have many UI people around for this initiative. Sorry, front-end people, not UI.
So you were using the off canvas as a top.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow,
That's the plan.
that's fancy.
Right now we have a very basic UI which works, but Roy said in a meeting that he thinks the full UI is a beta blocker. And yeah, we've been working since the last meeting on the patch. Like I said, it's ready. Needs more reviews, but we think it's pretty good. And it's good for 8.6 at least. And
So do you have issue for the off canvas UI to display?
yes, let me find it.
I checked the issues from a previous meeting. They are fixed, so at least those are not blockers anymore.
I'm gonna paste it here in the chat. Did you get it in chat?
For the UI stuff, we were blocked for a while with that in Migrate. If you can find, as a suggestion, if you can find a sprint that is willing to help give you some feedback or do some front end work, the requirement though being you kind of have to spell out the work pretty clearly, like you're doing a project for money for a project where you've got tasks and things, because in a sprint they're only going to be able to do stuff if it's pretty well clearly outlined. But finding someone to help out in a sprint is very useful.
I see.
Yeah, I can take a look at that issue too. I was working on it with Tim for a while, but I lost track of it. So the last patch is one I haven't reviewed. And I have other people who are other developers who helped a lot with off canvas with CSS issues that also are kind of interested in further looking at off canvas issues. So this might be one that they would be interested in helping out with.
I was hoping that we can get someone who actually knows off canvas to help us there.
Yeah. Star.
Thanks very much for that. That would be great.
Yeah, Star Shaped, who is doing CSS, was interested in doing further work with it. So I will ping her.
Okay, great.
Yay!
Yeah, I think
That's what I love in these meetings.
Yeah, very useful.
So we connected media with out of the box. We connected settings tray with out of the box, off canvas with workflow. Cool.
Source CSV with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did tweet that out, so maybe we'll get some other folks to chime in.
Cool. So that's all the initiatives that I had listed. Any other blockers or things that I should raise with committers, or anything I was not paying enough attention to, or action items that I didn't write down?
No, that I recall.
Okay. Cool. Great. So thanks everyone for coming then, and keep up the great work. I'll try to help in the ways I promised. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Gabor.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.